This is the Bleav in Pro Wrestling podcast. Here's Rick Ucchino and SP3 on the Bleav Podcast Network.
Oh, yeah, bringing that Monday energy here on Bleav in Pro Wrestling Live. We appreciate everybody who's joining us here. Hope it's a wonderful Monday afternoon, whether you're at work, whether you just got off work like I did, whether you're over in the UK chilling with a basket of fish and chips like SP3 is. Have you had fish and chips while you've been over there?
No, I did that the first time I was out here, and I didn't like it too much. I've had chips, for sure. I haven't had fish and chips quite yet. And I had Nando's for the first time today.
What is Nando's? You have to explain that to me. What is Nando's?
Nando's is a very famous chicken place out here. It was badmouthed by one of the people we're going to be talking about on today's show.
Great segue.
Yeah,
Love it.
So,
love it.
It's good stuff.
All right. Well, you liked it. Sasha Banks did not. There's a lot of things that Sasha Banks is not liking these days, unless it's just chilling at a Steve Aoki concert. I mean, and jamming out on stage. She continues to live her best life, and I think that is going to be what's going to continue for a while here, and that means living her best life sans WWE. We're going to get into all the latest. What is up, Safet? What is up, Rondo? What is up, Joshua? We appreciate everybody who is joining us here. Get your comments in. Get your questions in. We're going to try and get through as much as we can because I know Sid has a heart out here in about 43 minutes. And we have a lot to cover today. Like I said, the latest with Sasha Banks and Naomi and what this is going to mean for both the company and themselves moving forward. Also, we have another debut that happened this past week in Mr. Max Dupree. And the more I think about it, the more I kind of like this and how this is shaping out. I know Sid and I are going to disagree on this one, but we'll talk about that. Also, we had a tag team title unification that actually went down, and reportedly this was a last-minute decision. We'll dive into that. Plus, oh my God, has anybody stopped and looked at the Double or Nothing card? Holy shitballs. There's a lot to dive into there as well. And Stephanie McMahon taking a leave of absence from WWE. Could we get any more things to talk about? Let's stop wasting time. First things first, got to thank our partners over at BetOnline, the continued #1 source for all of your sports betting needs and information. Get the latest odds, news, sports developments on the NBA playoffs, Major League Baseball fights, NFL futures. It's all there. BetOnline, your continued source for all of your wagering needs, including live betting and fan favorite Vegas casino and poker games. Real easy to get started, folks. Go to the website, use your mobile device, sign up. Use our promo code when you do it, Bleav, that is BLEAV, and you will receive your 50%. I said 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online where the game starts. And SP3, we will dive right into what happened on Friday Night SmackDown this past week. It was all about the tag teams, those who were there and those who were not there. Not a shocker to a lot of people that Sasha and Naomi were not on the show. The question was, would WWE respond? Would they take any kind of action? Would they mention it? Oh, boy, howdy, did they mention it. They waited until about right before the main event, and Michael Cole goes on this diatribe about how Sasha and Naomi let down WWE and let down the WWE universe by walking out on the company a week ago today now. And they have suspended them indefinitely. They have stripped them of the women's tag team titles. A tournament is going to be held in the near future to determine new women's tag team champions. We had to know that some kind of disciplinary action was coming down the line here sooner rather than later. Your reaction on the punishment and how it was handed down. Is WWE handling this in the right way, in your opinion?
No, I mean, they didn't handle it right when we talked about this the first time on Tuesday morning following Monday Night Raw, and they've just been trying to play catch up ever since. They went out and they tried to control the narrative and get their story out before Sasha and Naomi could, and tried to pit the locker room against them. And, regardless of how you feel about what Sasha and Naomi did, if you're on WWE side, if you favor the performer, regardless of how you feel, I don't think anyone can say WWE handled this the right way. You can't handle it the right way with what they did. Unprecedented type of stuff, like sending out statements to not only, control the narrative, but to also completely break kayfabe and say that it's a scripted program. So they're just playing catch up with this. I've said it. I said it on Redacted. I said it on True Hill Heat that if they had waited before, it waited, they just done Monday Night Raw, say they made a change, say Becky Lynch and Asuka came to Adam Pearce and they wanted a one-on-one matchup to determine the number one contender, and not even mention Sasha and Naomi walking out, and then take the week to think about it, and then did the statement by Michael Cole on SmackDown suspending them, then maybe I would say that WWE handled this okay. I can't even say that much. I don't think anyone in this situation comes out looking good. We're now a week later, and I still don't feel that way. I'm very much in the middle when it comes to all of this, but it's not surprising that they are suspended. It's not surprising the report from WrestleVotes that things are just going to get worse before they get any better. And I literally was saying that to somebody on social media, and then a couple of hours later that came out, and I was just like, well, I'm not behind the WrestleVotes Twitter page, but I think this is a very obvious situation that it's only going to get worse from here. They were suspended. They were stripped of the titles. Their merchandise was taken off of WWE shop, so they can't make money while they are suspended.
They were scrubbed from the then, now, forever opening package. WWE is sending a message. This isn't just about punishing two superstars. This is sending a message. And honestly, I kind of feel like WWE's focusing on the wrong thing here, right? What Sasha Banks and Naomi did was wrong, plain and simple. Whether you agree with what their reported feelings were about their creative positioning, whether you feel like they had every right to stand up for what they believe in and go against what a lot of people feel is bad creative, I'm on their side on that. But the fact is, they waited until the show began, and then they decided to walk out after the show started. That merited punishment. That merited some kind of maybe a fine, disciplinary action. If WWE had just suspended them and stripped them of the titles and that was it, I would have been fine with that. Honestly, I would have been fine with that, because that would have been merited in my opinion, even though I agree with what they were saying and the cause that they stood up for. But it's this going above and beyond that WWE is doing with releasing the statement and then doubling down on Friday by having Michael Cole say they let everybody down, which is horseshit. I mean, absolute. Did they let some people down? Yes, I would say primarily those in WWE management, probably quite a few of their coworkers, and maybe a few fans. But man, there is, I guarantee you, there are not droves and droves of WWE fans who are crying that they missed out on Sasha Banks and Naomi in that main event on Monday night. They're SmackDown superstars. I said it. They had no business being in that match in the first damn place. All right. But again, they did walk out on the show. That merited some kind of punishment. But having Michael Cole double down like he did, to me, is them now trying to completely paint Sasha Banks and Naomi as 100% at fault, which is not the case, because WWE is equally at fault in the fact that their shitty creative drove them to this point. Case in point, WWE said, hey, we're going to hold a tournament to determine the new women's tag team champions. Wrestling Observer today said WWE is having a hard time doing that because internally they only have one tag team listed on the roster. One, Natty and Sasha, or excuse me, Natty and Shayna. That's it. They don't even have Doudrop and Nikki listed internally. If somebody ain't sitting back in that creative meeting and going, maybe Sasha and Naomi had a point. If somebody ain't saying that today, I don't know what the hell they're thinking, because that's case in point that they did have a valid argument. WWE had nothing planned for those tag team titles because they wanted to feed Sasha and Naomi to the two women's champions, reportedly, not totally confirmed, but reportedly wanted to feed them both to them. And then, oh yeah, we'll go back to your little program with Nikki and Doudrop down the line. That shows you how much they give a shit about those women's tag team titles. That's reportedly what they were fighting against. And thus here we are. Now, even if you look at like the most logical people to put in this tournament, yeah, you could probably put Carmella and Queen Zelina back together. You got Nikki and Doudrop. You got Natty and Shayna. Who the hell am I supposed to root for in that women's tag team tournament if those are your three crutches right now? And if you put Rhea and Liv back together with all these teases that Edge has been doing, that's going to be a heel team because you're going to turn Liv Morgan into a heel to put her with the Judgment Day. You got no baby faces. There's a massive void that's been left here, which we're going to get to. But this is clearly WWE trying to paint them as 100% wrong when clearly they contributed to this issue and they don't want to admit it. And we've seen it with other people. How many people have been let go because they have been fighting against creative, whether it's Keith Lee, whether it's Bray Wyatt, whether it's Sasha Banks and Naomi, and what happens? What's the word we always get? Oh, well, they were hard to work with. They were hard to work with. They had attitude issues.
It goes back further. They just said the same thing about Brody Lee. Brody Lee, who no one had a bad word to say about when he passed away. They said the same thing about FTR, even though the reports were they were interested in getting FTR. Then when FTR said they're not interested in talking to them while they're under contract with AEW, oh, they were hard to work with. We're not interested in them. This is their go-to thing. They are never in the wrong, and that's why I said what I said a couple of different times throughout this week, that we view the different walkouts in history differently, because with like Stone Cold Steve Austin, you view it differently because he let them dictate the story. WWE didn't say, oh, maybe we overreacted when we buried Austin on the Raw that he didn't show up. No, he came back and he had to say, oh no, I dropped the ball. Yeah, you guys were right. But he also said that he didn't like the fact he had an issue with The Rock all the way up until their matchup at WrestleMania 19. This is what WWE has done for so long. They never take accountability for what they do. They have to take some type of responsibility for the situation that they're in right now. Whatever you want to say about Sasha and Naomi, they value themselves. They value what they wanted to do. They were kind of put into this situation. Neither one of them were really, that wasn't the plan for WrestleMania for either one of them. The news came out over the weekend. Sasha Banks was supposed to be in a SmackDown Women's Championship matchup. Naomi, obviously, you did the 5-month storyline with Sonya Deville. That obviously you had probably someone in creative had told her, we're building to you and Sonya at WrestleMania. So they had two separate programs. And then basically when they blew off her and Sonya early for no reason, and then they, Ronda came back, they just put them together and was like, here's the tag team titles. And they never had plans after that. That was basically their consolation prize for their real plans being canceled.
Yep. And then, you had those reports of, this was just the tipping point on Monday, right? This was the tipping point for Sasha Banks, where she finally said, you know what? Screw this, because I was promised one thing, then I was promised another. And then, you know what? You guys gave us these tag team titles and we're like, all right, but we're going to make these damn things mean something. And then they're like, oh, well, we're going to put these on hold. Oh, hey, look, you're going to get your match against Ronda Rousey. Yeah, you're going to lose, but you're going to get this match against Ronda Rousey at Hell in a Cell, which they have basically already informed us is a punting pay-per-view, just waiting to get to the 3 big stadium shows that they're going to be doing, so much so that neither the WWE or Universal title is going to be on this card. And now
the tag team title unification. This is how I know before we get to that one, we know that was a last minute decision, because if you were going to unify the tag team titles, you should have done it at the pay-per-view that's not going to have the WWE and Universal title on the line.
Preach. But this is clearly WWE sending a message that says, hey, look, our way or the highway. If you fight us, this is what's going to happen. And I think Sasha Banks is just as big of a star that they are willing to do this to. Because we've always talked about WWE, they care about like the golden six, right? Roman, Seth, Ronda, Becky, Charlotte, and Brock, right? That's the golden six. And then there are other people that are kind of hovering around in that area. Sasha Banks was one of those that kind of hovers around in that area. And they're doing this to her because she's difficult to work with or she needs to fix her attitude. They are trying to send a message because they don't want other people doing this. That's exactly what they're doing. Suspending them, stripping of the titles, that's one thing. You don't scrub them from the then, now, forever graphic and put in Cody Rhodes if you're not trying to send a message. You don't pull their merchandise from WWE. You pulled Sasha Banks' merchandise from WWE shop? Like, you ain't making money off of that? This is clearly above and beyond a message. And look, of course Sasha Banks is going to be upset that she got pulled from a title program for Ronda Rousey coming in. I know some people are going to feel a certain way about that, but if I'm Sasha Banks, who main evented the WrestleMania before, who's been here for, a majority of the time since Ronda Rousey had left the company, and I'm one of their top stars, and they started building this thing toward herself and Charlotte at WrestleMania, which they did start building, and then here comes in Ronda Rousey, and all of a sudden, not only am I not in the main event of WrestleMania, not only am I not in that title program, but you have me in the Royal Rumble for all of 5 damn minutes before you are tossing my ass out. And then you're giving me this thrown together tag team title program against 3 other teams, 2 of which aren't even teams anymore. 6 weeks after WrestleMania? WWE's clearly got to own up to the fact that they have creative issues, and it is driving people out of this company. People like Sasha Banks now, people like Toni Storm, who was in a world title program and then left immediately afterward.
And like, my big thing is if okay, we know what happened at WrestleMania. Charlotte Flair defeats Ronda Rousey. Why couldn't Sasha Banks be in that match then? If Charlotte's gonna win anyway, why not make it a triple threat? It makes it a better match. What the hell are we doing here? Because you needed a fourth team? Because you needed a fourth team?
No, because this is all about getting the match that Vince wanted. You said it yourself. Yes. That's all it was. It was Vince getting the match that he always wanted at WrestleMania 35. He wasn't going to put Sasha Banks in that match because he didn't feel obligated to put Sasha Banks in that match. He was obligated and forced to put Becky Lynch into the main event of WrestleMania 35 by the droves of fans and the work that Becky Lynch did. He had to do it, and he had to put her over. So this was all about putting on the match that he wanted. And it was a feud that, for all intents and purposes, fell completely flat. And now WWE is looking at a massive problem, because if you look over on the SmackDown women's roster, you take away Sasha and you take away Naomi, holy shit, is there a void left there?
100%.
So let's dive into that, shall we?
It's time to answer the 5 count on the Bleav Podcast Network.
All right, so branching off of this now, you got Ronda, you got Raquel. Who you got after that? Aaliyah, Shotzi, Shayna, Natty. Talent. There's talent there. People go. You got people. You got people that you have not come close to booking like they matter in forever. Shayna Baszler should be one of the top heels in WWE, but you guys neutered her after she lost to Becky Lynch at WrestleMania 36. Becky Lynch went away, so did Shayna Baszler. Shayna Baszler didn't need to go away after WrestleMania 36. Nobody's booking. Nobody. Of anybody who's left in the company, nobody's booking has suffered since the pandemic started more than Shayna Baszler. She went from dominant monster to I'm losing to Dana Brooke on Monday Night Raw in 3 minutes. That's how badly her booking has been.
She lost to Lana several times.
Yes.
Before Lana got fired.
Yes. Correct. So I will ask you, SP3, they have talent there, obviously. But do they have enough to fill the void left by Sasha and Naomi's absence?
No. Because WWE, I seen this argument a lot over the weekend because of the, what we had on screen before that, Sasha Banks lost her WrestleMania feud due to Ronda Rousey returning, and it became an argument of WWE overrating Ronda Rousey's star power and underrating Sasha Banks' star power. I think half of that is true. WWE has vastly underrated Sasha Banks' star power. She has crossed over to the mainstream. She's been on Wild 'N Out. She's the cousin of Snoop Dogg. She can, she's done all these different shows and media
She's been in Star
appearances.
Wars for fuck's sake.
She was in The Mandalorian season 2. Like, they were talking about her doing her own series, a spinoff from that. They have vastly underrated Sasha Banks's star power. But I think it's 100% I've said this on Twitter, I'm gonna say it here. Wrestling Twitter is actively praying and hoping for Ronda Rousey to fail. And that's why it became the argument of you're underrating one person, you're overrating another person.
I hate those arguments. Stop tearing other people down to build a case for somebody else.
Thank you. You don't need to do it for Sasha Banks. Sasha Banks is a star on her own. You don't need to tear down Ronda to make Sasha a star. Like, Ronda Rousey legitimately, ex Vince McMahon, ex Stephanie McMahon, ex Triple H, ex anyone in management. If it wasn't for Ronda Rousey basically pushing and bringing women's MMA to UFC, we would not have no women's evolution. I've said it once, I'll say it again. The whole reason I did the whole gimmick and called her the Lord and Savior is because when Ronda Rousey came to WWE was just like, yeah, we had the women's revolution for the last 3 years since 2015 when we called up the 4 horsewomen, but now we are totally evolving that to the next level. We're gonna do the first ever women's Royal Rumble so Ronda can come out and debut after that. We're gonna do a major feud with women, with Stephanie McMahon and Triple H, a headline matchup at WrestleMania 34. We're gonna do Evolution, the all women's pay-per-view. We're gonna have women main event WrestleMania. We're gonna come up with the women's tag team titles. Yes, Sasha and Bayley push for it, but I don't think it would have happened if Ronda Rousey wasn't with the company. So you guys need to stop this. It doesn't need to be done. Sasha Banks is a legitimate star, heel, babyface. She has mainstream crossover appeal. There is no reason to bring Ronda Rousey into the discussion to prop up Sasha Banks. Sasha Banks is already propped up, and WWE doesn't realize it. It's about WWE versus Sasha Banks. It's not about Sasha Banks versus Ronda Rousey. And Naomi has just been underrated for well over a decade. Like, we had people, MJF got a lot of pub last week when he said, oh, the PC made this person, that person, this person, that person, and he mentioned Naomi, and I was like, MJF saying a lot of truth in this tweet, but he's not realizing that Naomi was made in the FCW and had been with the company been on the main roster for 3 years before the Performance Center was even built. So Naomi has been vastly underrated. She could have been one of those major stars, and I could even put her on the same level of crossover appeal as Sasha Banks. You had her return at the 2020 Royal Rumble, and that became the most viral thing about that whole Royal Rumble matchup. Her coming out with the afro hair. You had Keke Palmer saying that she wanted to play Naomi in a docu-series, a docu-film. She was talked about all over, and WWE completely wiped her out. And the next time that she made news and was viral again is when she's doing a karaoke contest on SmackDown. So this company does not, you can smack them across the face with a star and they wouldn't know it. They have I blame more of the company for what Ronda Rousey, people can say, oh, this second run with Ronda Rousey has come off flat. A lot of that is down to WWE. If you would have let Ronda Rousey be what she wanted to be, she wanted to come back and be a heel, I think we would totally not be looking at Ronda Rousey's current run the way we are looking at it. But WWE just has an issue with recognizing a star and pushing a star like a star, unless it's one person. They have literally gone back. I've said this argument for a couple of years now. The John Cena era has totally effed up WWE completely because they reverted back. The Attitude Era, you had 8 or 9 guys that could go into the main event scene. When John Cena came up and they put all their cards on John Cena, they reverted back to the Hulk Hogan era. The Hulk Hogan era had stars like Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, like the Macho Man Randy Savage, like Ultimate Warrior, but they kept going back to Hogan. They made it a one-star factory, and that's what they did with John Cena, and then John Cena passed the torch to Roman Reigns, and that's what they've done with Roman Reigns since 2015. And even though Becky Lynch has rose up, Bryan Danielson rose up, CM Punk rose up, they have still gone back to Roman Reigns. It's all Roman Reigns all the time, and you could smack them across the face 5 times with a star, they wouldn't know it.
Quadatrons, hoping I pronounced that correctly. I think they need to bring back mixed tag. They need to integrate the men and women to fill the void and create storylines. I don't know if you're talking about like the Mix Max Challenge or just hi there, hi, cameo appearance. What up? I don't know if you're talking about Mix Max Challenge or more tag team integration, but they're starting to do that with Rhea and Edge. We'll see how that progresses. I just think they need to actually stick to a plan and let's get back to the basics. All right, let's get back to the basics, because outside of the Raw Women's Championship and maybe the United States title, ain't none of these singles championships being booked well at all right now across the board. Case in point, you put the WWE and Universal Championships on one guy and then parked them. Your top draw, your biggest guy, Roman Reigns, has all the gold, ain't doing squat with it right now. I think they just need to get back to the basics. And to answer the question, I think they do have the talent, but like they got to do some major adjustments. Like the only thing that they can do, in my opinion, because if they think bringing Charlotte Flair back to feud with Ronda Rousey is going to save SmackDown and hold up no, it's not, because nobody's been into that feud for the last several months. And the last thing anybody's going to want to see is those two fighting against once Charlotte comes back. I'm orchestrating a trade right now. I know Fox would be totally against this, but I'm trying to convince them, if I'm WWE, that this is the right move to make. I'm sending Charlotte Flair to Raw. I'm sending Becky Lynch and Alexa Bliss over to SmackDown. And then I'm bringing Bayley, as soon as she's ready, back and good and healthy, over to SmackDown as well. And I'm building towards Becky and Ronda at SummerSlam. I think that is what you got to do right now to put some juice into the SmackDown women's division, because I don't know what they're going to do, because Ronda versus Charlotte doesn't make any sense to go back to that. And they got a lot of massive problems if they think they're going to fill up a women's tag team title tournament. Unless Vince McMahon is on the horn right now with the Bellas and Beth Phoenix and trying to get Lita and Trish Stratus, unless they're doing like a mixed NXT women's tag team title unification tournament, which is what they probably should do, I don't know how you're going to fill out a bracket more than 4 teams. I don't know how it's possible. It all depends, really. Once again, I think they're going to have to lean on Becky Lynch and Bayley to bail their asses out. That's what they're going to have to do. And whether that means turning Becky back babyface or keeping her as a heel and putting her against Ronda, which might be a bad idea because that's exactly what happened the last damn time they did that. We all saw how that worked out. They have created massive problems for themselves. And the only thing that they can do is go from their surplus on Raw and help fill out SmackDown, which would kind of balance out the rosters a little bit, or they call in the legends. Like that's
WWE don't do trades, though. They don't do trades. They're not going to do this. If we're being realistic, does WWE currently have the talent on the main roster to fill the void left by Sasha and Naomi's absence? The answer is no, they don't. Because, like I said, this company doesn't recognize when they have a star right in front of them. You talked about Shayna Baszler. They didn't know what to do with. Natalia's been around for 10 years. She's had so many stop and starts. She's the Dolph Ziggler of the women's division.
She had to go to NXT to feel relevant again. Same with Dolph Ziggler. Neither one of them have felt. They just keep bumping poor Natty from tag team to tag team to tag team. How many different partners has she had over the last few years? Like, luckily, her and Tamina got a run with the belts, right? That was her? That was her and Tamina? I can't keep it straight at this point.
It was.
Jesus. That's right, because it was Shayna and Nia, right? That were tag team champs at one point. Because
They were
all these
two-time
teams,
champs.
right? Because all these teams make fucking sense. WWE's got some issues to work out, but let's focus on Sasha Banks and Naomi. I think this is a very valid question to ask. Are they ever going to wrestle for WWE again?
I would say Naomi is. She's got the family connections. I think that the family can talk to, Vince and management, and she will come back. So I'll say yes to Naomi. I have a bigger question mark with Sasha Banks. And at this point, I said it, on Tuesday last week, and I'll say it here. I don't think she should. The only way you create change or you make it different from the last other times you've left this company, when you lost the women's tag team titles after WrestleMania 35, when you took a break after WrestleMania 37, the mystery with what happened at SummerSlam, the only way you're going to create a change and really make an impact by this walkout is if you don't come back. So I'm going to say no for Sasha Banks.
I'm going to say yes for Naomi. I definitely believe it will be sooner before Sasha Banks does. I think Sasha Banks is going to dig her heels in. And the only thing that could complicate this is there's been talk of freezing their contracts, right? And we don't know exactly when their contracts are up. Whether it's 2 months from now, whether it's 2 years. I know there was some confusion on Sasha Banks's deal, whether she signed a 3-year extension or a 5-year extension. That's one of the things where it's difficult to, like, if this is the NFL, we know exactly how much they're getting making and how much time they got left on their deal. We don't know that for WWE contracts. So it's all a guessing game. I'm going to say yes for Sasha Banks, but it is not going to be for a very long time. Sasha Banks is going to leave WWE. She is going to do whatever the hell it is she wants, whether that's go to AEW and rule there for 2 years and elevate that women's division to greater heights than it is currently right now. And they are on the way up. You can believe that. I think we would agree. We would all like to see some more time for the women's champion, Thunder Rosa. And hopefully that will happen after she beats Serena Deeb at Double or Nothing. There's always improvements to be made, but they have come a long way since when that company first started up. Sasha Banks would add greatly to that. No doubt. She would walk in there and be their biggest star. And again, that is no disrespect to Thunder Rosa or the Good Doctor. She just would be. That says more about Sasha Banks than it does anybody else in that women's division. Or she's going to go to Hollywood and she's going to star in Star Wars movies. And she's going to maybe be added to the MCU. And she's going to go become a bigger mainstream crossover star than WWE ever realized that they had. And then once she becomes this big mainstream crossover star, WWE is finally going to go, shit, we need her back in here for WrestleMania. Whether that happens in 2023, whether that happens in 2024, whether that happens in 2025, I do not know. But all I know is WWE eventually will let Sasha Banks walk, and they are going to regret it. And Sasha Banks will return to a big-ass payday, and she will wrestle again, probably at WrestleMania, in a big match. She's still young. How old is Sasha Banks? Is she even 30 yet?
No, she's not.
Yeah. Yes, she is. She turned 30
Oh,
this year.
she is? Oh, I didn't know if her birthday
30
was
this year. She's 30. She's 4 years younger than us, Sid. She's going to be just fine. I think she will be back. She will be wrestling in WWE somewhere around age 32, 33. I think that's the next time that we see her. I really do. But I do believe that she will be back. It's just going to take time heals all things. You can never say never because look at Cody Rhodes. This past Friday, moving on here, we had the big tag team title unification match. Dominated the show. Dominated. They opened up on Friday talking about how this was the biggest night in the history of tag team wrestling, Sid. And I'm sitting here going, you better give us a damn finish if you are touting this up this much. And then they did. Yeah, it was bullshit. Roman Reigns got involved. But we, at the end of the day, had a finish, had new unified tag team champions. This goes against reports that Dave Meltzer had said they were going to go through with the match, but not with the title unification. Then they go through with the unification. How surprised are you that the Usos are wearing all the gold today?
I'm very surprised because if you were going to do a title unification, maybe you should have done it at the last pay-per-view, WrestleMania Backlash, when you advertised it for 3 weeks. Maybe you should have done it at Hell in a Cell, where you're not going to have a WWE or Universal Championship being decided. I wasn't surprised after watching the first segment and the way they hyped it up throughout the night. I said the same thing. I was like, well, I'm pretty sure they're going to give us a finish now because they're going over the top with this, and they would just look so dumb after they just said, "Oh, we're sorry we didn't give you the advertised main event because it's all Sasha and Naomi's fault," and then they give us an advertised main event with that type of finish. No, they can't do that just 5 days later.
Not even they are that dumb.
Exactly. Not even they are that dumb. So it surprised me as a person going into the night and not expecting a finish. It did surprise me there. It surprised me that it happened on SmackDown and they didn't wait for the pay-per-view to do it.
We're going to get the rematch. The rematch is going to happen at the pay-per-view.
Because that's a much bigger match than the first ever time a title is being unified. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, it does surprise me, but it does kind of confirm what Meltzer reported, that this was a last minute decision.
I think I'm more relieved than I am surprised, just because I was expecting them to do all of this hype, all of this build, and then go, yeah, nope, here's that DQ. We're not really doing it. We know you guys wanted the match, right? We gave you the match, but we didn't want to unify the tag team titles. It's going to be interesting to see how far they go with this. Same with Roman, really, because they've unified these titles, but we don't have a unified belt. They're just carrying around all the gold right now. So it's going to be interesting to see. I was surprised. I will say I was surprised, but I think my level of relief overtakes that, and I definitely think we're going to get a rematch at Hell in a Cell. I was pleasantly surprised by the finally the debut of LA Knight on Friday Night SmackDown. That it was until LA Knight opened his mouth and said, "Hi, I'm Max Dupree." And he is the CEO of Maximum Male Models. And the more I go back and I watch this, I honestly, like many people, were going, what the fuck are they doing with LA Knight introducing a new persona again for Eli Drake, after we have already established LA Knight as a character on NXT? He had gotten over with the audience, right? Why are we going back and now taking this guy who most of us know at this point and just acting like LA Knight never existed, and they're giving us a new persona? But I go back and I watch LA Knight and I'm going, this mother trucker can make anything work. He can make anything work. And I think with the proper booking, he's going to make this work. But I know there are a lot of people who are looking at the name, of his group that we don't yet officially know who's in it. Although if you pay attention to the dark matches, we know who's going to be in it. There are a lot of people who think this is DOA, dead on arrival, ain't it gonna work. And I believe you're one of them, SP3.
I mean, how many people have been released that you said the same thing about, Rick? That, oh, they can make anything work. Bearcat Lee, he can make anything work. Bray Wyatt, he can make anything work.
Bray Wyatt did make anything work.
Yeah, and he got released. So obviously, you saying that and them being able to back up those words doesn't mean jack crap. It don't mean nothing, ladies and gentlemen. And yes, I believe LA Knight is a talented performer, but you already damned him by making a professional wrestler into a manager. Then you damned him again by this name change, and the Night Model Management sounded much better than Maximum Male Models. So it's just like, it's like you double down, and it doesn't make any sense. You own the LA Knight name, like
right?
all the other people. All the other people that you changed the name, it was, oh, we gotta own the name. We can't have them using, part of their name. So that's the reason why we're changing the name. What's the reason for this? It just doesn't make any sense. No, it's not dead on arrival, but it's definitely put him in a mud pit, and he's sinking at the moment.
It's the same thing they did with Pete Dunne. They strapped a freaking anchor around his legs and chucked him into the ocean and said, swim. This is all going to come down to booking. I maintain Retribution would have worked had they booked them properly. No, what'd they do? They lost their first damn match, right? So this is all going to depend on who shows up in the group, whether it's Face, Mace, whether it's Mansoor, whether it's somebody else, whether they add an actual heavy hitter to the group. Hell, I would love Dominic Dojakovic to be in this group as well, and actually name him Dominic Dojakovic again. Anything to get him established on the main roster again and cooking. But it is all going to come down to booking. If these guys are winning matches, if they're presented as a big deal and not some comedy gag, which Maximum Male Models makes me think of a Ben Stiller movie, that's not a good thing right now. But I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna say LA Knight has the charisma and the performance to make anything work, but they can't screw him over with the booking. Even Bray Wyatt, one of the best performers of the last 2 decades, had to completely reinvent himself to get over again because WWE had screwed him over to the point with bad booking that no one cared about him. So bad booking will ruin anything. They have got to book him properly. And maybe I want to see him as a player coach. All right. He can be a manager, but I also want to see him wrestle. And I don't want him to be like that MVP, right? They book MVP and Lashley in matches so MVP could take the L, right? That's not what they need to do with Max Dupree. Because Max Dupree, he could be a world champion if you wanted him to be. I don't care. He's 39 years old. He could be. Switching gears, it is pay-per-view week, ladies and gentlemen. Pay-per-view week. Double or Nothing coming up this Sunday. By the way, this Wednesday, 7 a.m. here on the Bleav in Pro Wrestling Podcast YouTube channel. My conversation with Ricky Starks will drop. He's got a big tag team title match, so make sure to check that out. This is a stack card SP3. They added a shit ton of matches over the weekend on Rampage. I mean, pick one. Which one are you looking forward to the most? Which one do you think steals the show? Because they might not necessarily be the same one.
The match I am looking forward to the most, I have to say it's CM Punk versus Hangman Adam Page. I think that the story they've developed has been very nice. It's been simple yet effective. I wouldn't even say that that's the best build up to the show. I think it's quite obvious MJF and Wardlow have had the best build up to the show. But honestly, I think maybe the correct booking on that is Wardlow just destroying him. So the match I'm looking forward to watching the most is Hangman Adam Page and CM Punk, because I don't know who's going to win. It's so unpredictable of who's going to win that match that I am very interested to see that go down. Which one steals the show? I think it's one that I've not felt good about the buildup at all to this, because it's been
know what you're going to say.
very start stop. But I'm gonna go with 2 matches. One where the build has only come together in like a couple of weeks, and the other where the build has been start stop. The one that's been start stop is House of Black versus Death Triangle. I think that that's going to be absolutely explosive. 2 of the best trios in AEW going at it. And then I'm going to go the AEW World Tag Team title match with Swerve Strickland and Keith Lee versus Team Taz, Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs versus Jurassic Express, Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. I think the whole combination and the whole feel of all 3 of those teams with the, the regular sized man and the larger man, I think that that's going to just be a barn burner, and it's going to surprise a lot of people how great this match is going to be.
A shock with the complaints of MJF being buried by Wardlow if that happens there? I don't think so, because I still think MJF is going to be the next world champion after Punk takes the title off of Hangman Adam Page. I still think that's what is going to happen. I don't think that they would do all of this build just to have Wardlow lose to MJF. I think Wardlow is going to have a very dominant victory over MJF and earn his way out of his contract, in which case Tony Khan would then have to pay him a ton of money to get him on the roster. For me, honestly, the match that I'm looking forward to the most is on the buy-in. I want to see how Danhausen and Hook are going to work together. Really, honestly, they have sold me. That workout vignette that they played, that montage they played on Rampage on Friday was spectacular. I loved every second of it. I could watch a whole show with Hookhausen. I'm dying to see how this is booked. As far as the match that I think is going to steal the show, I'm with you on the trios match. I think Death Triangle and House of Black is going to own all sorts of ass, but this entire pay-per-view is going to absolutely own. SP3, I know we have a hard out here. Real quick, one for the road. It has to be brought up. Stephanie McMahon taking a leave of absence from WWE. Should we be reading more into this, or is this just burnout factor? What are you thinking here?
From what I've heard from people inside the company, there's reasons behind it. What company employees have been told is that it's a health reason. I don't know if that has anything to do with Stephanie herself. I don't know if that has to do with Triple H. I don't know if that has to do with Shane, Vince, but I know Wade Keller did a podcast over the weekend where he says there's reasons and they're never going to come out. I think that's just, driving up speculation. Honestly, I think she has her reasons for what it is. I don't even think it's burnout. I don't agree with that. I think that I believe the health reasons may have to do it, and that's the reason why the reasons are not going to come out, because they keep a lot of that stuff close to the vest. And I don't even think we would have known about Triple H's cardiac arrest if it wasn't as serious as it was. So I think I think that it is what it is, and we should just respect the fact that she's taken this leave of absence and that she let it be known the way it was. The timing of it is very interesting, but let's leave it at that.
Yeah. Look, even if it was burnout, right? Like, I'm not going to speculate on health reasons. I would never do that. But even if it was burnout, guys, even the most glorious jobs in the world, they can be burdensome. They can carry a heavy toll. And over the last year, Stephanie's had to go through a lot with Triple H's health issues. And yes, she has a family at home and a lot of responsibilities. This just could have been a hell of a year for Stephanie, and she just wants to take some time off. And I have no problems with that. We all have our issues. We all need time off. We all need a damn break. God knows I need one. I'm going fucking 4 straight years without taking a break off of work. All right. I desperately need one. I am fried to the max. So I get it. Respect her time off. Wish her all the best. Can't wait to see her back on WWE TV one day. We appreciate all you guys joining us here on the show today. By the way, somebody asked a question earlier. Yes, it was A Shock who asked a question about a certain former superstar talking about a current superstar. I'm not going to acknowledge that because I'm not going to give her the attention that she is seeking. So I appreciate you asking the question. I didn't ignore it. I saw it, but I'm ignoring it.
He just answered it. He thinks it's BS. I think there's always smoke where there's fire.
I don't think so. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. This is Bleav in Pro Wrestling Live. Said, and I'll be back tomorrow, 7 a.m. here on the channel, recapping Raw. Could be a big Raw tonight. Who knows who will walk out tonight? We'll see. Talk to you guys tomorrow. Bleav in Pro Wrestling Live, brought to you by BetOnline.